Honey, starting next week, Miranda is gonna move in with us. Let's be good parents and let our son and his new wife live with us happily. You're always so cruel toward that poor girl, lying to her and making her feel bad. I don't want to have to tell you how to act or show you what is right or wrong. You should know better than to be rude to our new daughter-in-law. Imagine if when we got married, you moved in with me to my parents' place and they treated you this way. You would be so disappointed. So I'm asking you, begging you, please be very kind to her when she comes.
Why are you always nagging me about the way I treat this dumb girl? It's exhausting. Why should I change the way I act at home just because she's here with us? You're a woman. Why would I change my behavior just because another girl has joined our household? When a woman moves into her husband's family home, she has certain duties that are expected of her. For example, doing the laundry and the dishes. It is not a man's job to do those chores. You've been getting lazy recently and your work has been subpar, to say the least. This isn't something I can let slide. If she doesn't do these tasks, who will? This is all your fault. If you were to do better at these kinds of tasks, maybe I wouldn't be so uptight about it all.
What do you mean it's my fault? I can't do these tasks any better. After we got married, I slaved away, making our house a home and raising our children on my own. For 10 years, I suffered through all of your tedious tasks. For all of that time, you lied to me and made me feel like garbage. But you know what? I powered through for the sake of our children. After they turned 10, you changed and softened up a bit. You know that's the only reason I stayed with you. If you kept nagging me like that every day, I think I would have left you. I was so innocent when I got married, and now we have a lovely family of 4. I'm living so happily now, I'm going to do you a favor, okay? I will do some things better and try to match your standard, but I am only going to do it because I am ashamed of how you treat women, and I don't want your son to see you like that.
What? Did you just say you're ashamed of me? I have provided for you for all of these years. Why on earth would you ever be ashamed of me? You should be grateful and proud. You've really hurt my feelings, you know. I can't believe that you would say that. Maybe you and this new girl ought to do all of the house chores together since you think you can speak to me that way. Just look at other families. Most men share the same values I do, but it seems that times are changing and people are just choosing to ignore tradition. What do you expect me to think when you treat me with such a lack of gratitude? Stop arguing with me and go get me 2 beers.
You know my life isn't so easy either. My body isn't doing so well, and I don't feel as good as I did when I was young. If she moves in and sees us fighting all the time, she's going to want to move back out immediately. I bet that she will take her son with her too. How can you think you're in the right? I've lived with you for 25 years and this is what you think of me? I have never asked you for any favors and I try to do everything I can to make your life easier. So can't you do me this favor just this once? Think about our son and his new relationship. Don't you want it to be a success? I want Miranda to feel welcomed into her family, that's all. There will certainly be some new challenges having her live with us, but I think it will have many benefits in the long run. You can't keep living your life like this, trying to dominate and bully everyone around you. This is my biggest wish, dear. Please, I'm begging you, just this once.
Why does this girl matter so much to you? Is her opinion really that important? I think she's just moving in with us to steal money from Jake. That's what I think. Plus, we don't charge them rent. They don't have much money, and I'm sure that this is all just a way for them to avoid having to work extra.
What are you talking about? I understand that they are struggling right now, but we did too when we were young. You can't just turn them away when they're struggling like this. I want us to all live together as a big, happy family, so please just accept her and treat her kindly. I told you this is my one wish, the only favor I've ever asked you. Besides, nowadays, most young people want to move away from their families into big cities and pursue nicer, more luxurious lifestyles. Who wants to live with their parents out in the countryside? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to rebuild our relationship with Jake and his new wife. Miranda is beautiful, kind, and smart. She's gonna get a new job in no time. Plus, she's good at cooking and already offered to help with it. You know I'm a terrible cook. You and your friends are going to love having her around. There are many families that suck, you know. They aren't kind to their in-laws or treat them horribly. I don't want us to be in that group. I want us to be warm, happy, and welcoming. Is that too much to ask for?
Oh my God, stop it, please. I just want to drink my beer in peace and watch my show. Stop with all this nonsense. Get out of here and let me drink alone. You're acting like a child. It's sad you're wasting all of your free time arguing with me like this instead of doing something you actually enjoy. I want this home to stay in order. These young kids aren't gonna ruin the atmosphere I've built since they've moved out. You need to be more thoughtful and thankful, dear. You don't know how good your life is thanks to me. I told Jake to pick a good girl. There were so many women who were fighting over him, and he had to settle for her. You don't know how much I fought with him about this stupid relationship, but he didn't listen to me, and he ended up marrying this girl. Do you know how hard it is to have a useless wife like you? It is awful. I recognized that girl is similar to you, and I was worried about him. You should be grateful I even decided to marry you. If it weren't for me, you'd be living on your own for the rest of your life. Be grateful for your privileged position, dear. All right, I'm done talking. Are you gonna let me watch my show now?
Yes, dear. I'm sorry.
Now make yourself useful and do some cleaning or something.
After dating my husband for 3 years, we finally got married. From the day I met him, I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. His parents have always lived in the countryside and rarely ever met us in the city. The neighborhood they live in is very wide and the homes are spread out from one another. There are a lot of farmers in this area. The people in town all know each other well and share in all the gossip constantly. There is a town recreation center where they all meet up at least once a week to chat and share food. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Wilson, has been struggling with a couple different health issues. She's been seeing a few doctors, but because they live far out in the country, it's been hard for her to keep up with all of the appointments. Jake, my husband, has convinced me to move in with his parents for a while to help around the house. He didn't want them to know that we were moving in to help his mom with her health issues, so we said that we're struggling financially. After we got married, Jake and Mr. Wilson got into a huge fight. I'm not sure what it was about. I think my husband said it had something to do with us getting married. Apparently, his dad didn't think we were a good match, and he assumed we would break up eventually. Jake told me that his dad constantly lied to him and tried to manipulate him to get him to do whatever he wanted. Apparently, he's been like this since he was in elementary school. Mrs. Wilson was so excited when we got married. She's always been very supportive of our relationship. She's been really stressed recently because she's been unable to complete all of the chores she's expected to do each day. I know that she has a lot on her plate, so I decided to start working part-time to help more around the house. Hi, sweetie. I'm sorry you have to see the house like this. I didn't want you to see her home in such a messy state. I'm quite ashamed of how it looks. What are you talking about? You didn't do anything wrong. Besides, I don't think it's messy in here at all. I think your husband has just been too harsh on you lately. Don't think too much of it. Can I be honest for a minute? Of course, dear. If I were you, I think I would have divorced him a long time ago. How have you been able to put up with his behavior for 25 years? I've always been so curious about that. I hope I haven't crossed a line. I understand why you would wonder that. I too have wondered why I've stayed with him so long. There were many times we discussed getting divorced, especially when the kids were young and once they moved out. But, when you're in love, you tend to ignore the red flags. When we were younger, he was a really kind man. He treated me well and always made me feel loved. Every time I said that we should get divorced, he would make me do all of the housekeeping and increase the number of chores I needed to do. I know you're thinking I could have just left him or not done the chores, but when he gets angry, he gets scary too. It was just easier to give in and do what he wanted me to do. I didn't want my children to suffer alone with him at that time, and he often threatened to prevent me from seeing them if we did get divorced. His friends encourage him and tell him he's doing the right thing and that I'm a bad wife. I think all of them treat their wives like this. There was no way for me to pursue a divorce, especially with a lack of money to fund it. Wow. He's even worse than I previously thought. I want to avoid him at all costs. Thankfully, Jake is nothing like his dad. He treats me well, and I think you raised him right. Sounds like you've had a really rough time in this relationship. I'm sorry you had to go through all of that. Thank you for raising him to be such a well-mannered and kind man. I heard that your health issues have been worsening recently. How are you feeling today? I'm feeling okay, but not great. Thank you for asking. You're constantly getting so stressed, it's no wonder your body is starting to show physical consequences. Don't worry, I promise we're going to take care of you so you don't need to worry anymore. I promise. Oh, thank you so much. I am so grateful for you both. I've never had any luck finding a good man. That's why I made sure to raise my son right. I see that I did well. I'm so thankful to have you here with us. I think things are finally gonna start getting better. Now that I think about it, before Jake and I got married, he never mentioned him. He never liked to talk about Mr. Wilson. I heard a lot about Mrs. Wilson, how kind she is, the way she made his childhood so special, and all of the thoughtful things she has said to him. I can tell that she is a really good person. Jake never spoke about Mr. Wilson, even when prompted. I asked him a few times about his relationship with his dad, but his answers made me assume that Mr. Wilson is not a very good person. In fact, I started to assume that he was a horrible person. Thanks to Mrs. Wilson, I am now married to the sweetest man I could ever hope for. He has a good relationship with my parents, and we visit them often. Because of how much effort he puts into spending time with my parents, I decided I want to do better at helping his. When I heard that his mother was sick, I recommended we start to visit more. That's when he brought up the idea of moving in together. At first, I thought it was a bad idea. I didn't want to be in the same house as his father. Although I was hesitant at first, I decided it was the right thing to do. When I first met Mr. Wilson, he was very cold toward me. He didn't seem to like me and said a lot of things that made me feel awful, to say the least. I learned quickly not to speak to him or do anything that might rock his boat the wrong way. He drinks by himself every night, and there's always empty beer bottles on the floor. Even if he has guests over, he will drink himself into a drunken stupor. He constantly calls his friends and speaks loudly on the phone, even late into the night. We previously visited for 2 days in the summer, and it was horrible. He screamed the whole time and made Mrs. Wilson cry multiple times each day. I felt like I should have called the cops at one point. If I was her, I would seriously consider running away and getting a divorce. Mr. Wilson is the kind of person that is never satisfied, no matter what you do. I'm sure there's going to be more than a couple of problems while we stay here. Mr. Wilson, buying a car is out of the question for us right now. Besides, this is not urgent. We have 3 cars between all of us, and I think that is more than enough for the time being. You and Jake have your own cars, and your wife and I can borrow one for when I need to take her grocery shopping or doctor's appointments. Besides, she doesn't do much driving out here, especially nowadays. There's no reason for me to buy my own car at this time. You keep saying that we're trying to leech off of you, but you don't have that much money either. The more I listen to you complain, the more I realize you really don't have as much as you say you do. Jake and I are trying to save our money right now, you know that. That's part of the reason why we moved in with you both. This is a pretty big burden you're trying to put onto our shoulders. I'm sorry, but we're not going to buy another car. End of discussion.
How dare you speak to me like that? You can't speak to your father-in-law that way. I will not allow you to be so disrespectful towards me. I guess you really are incapable of doing anything. We have been trying to avoid you because you are so annoying to be around. I can't believe we have to live in the same house now. You don't know how to take care of a house or complete all of the chores properly. You can barely cook, and you offer nothing to my son financially. You have no right to decide whether or not you need to buy a new car. You two are the ones who decided to move into my house. While you are under my roof, you will follow all of my rules. Otherwise, you can just sleep on the streets, you brat.
Excuse me? Mr. Wilson, you are being way too harsh for the situation. I don't think I could find another man in this world as painfully bitter and miserable as you. I mean, you're truly one of a kind. Nowadays, if you're an adult, you can have adult conversations with other adults. It feels like you're a child, however. I can never seem to have an adult conversation with you. You always resort to childish insults and hateful language. There's no need for me to respect you when you never respect me. You keep talking about traditions, but times have changed. Besides, you don't work anymore, do you? Why would you expect us to buy such an expensive car?
You would give it to me, and I would sell you mine.
You don't have any conscience, do you? Have you ever thought about how your actions affect those around you?
I didn't know you were such a scary jerk. You're threatening me now. I will not stand for this. Listen here. If a woman is to raise her voice towards a man in this household, they should be punished. I have never heard of proper parents allowing their children to behave like you do. Where on earth did you learn to speak in such a hateful manner? You came here looking like a messy rat, and now you're trying to tell me off? I'm sorry, but I can't take you seriously when you look like that. You should have gotten your hair done before coming here. And back to the car argument, because I'm not done talking about it. If you were a good daughter-in-law, you would take out a loan to buy it for us. Most young people take out loans nowadays anyway. Even poor people can get a car with the right loans. Money is not the biggest deciding factor. If your father-in-law wants something, it is your duty to take care of him. That is part of being an adult and growing up. You have to take care of the adults around you and stop being so selfish all the time. You should know better than this.
I'm sorry, I didn't know my job was to take care of an adult-sized baby. We're not going to get you a new car. There is no reason for us to get something so expensive for you, especially when you've done nothing to deserve it. If you really want the car that bad, you're going to have to buy it with your own money. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to help you with this. You should understand that I'm unable to change my ways as it seems you're unable to change yours.
Are you serious? You're really gonna be like this? If you really are gonna act like this in my house, I have some ideas to make you shape up. I guess we're gonna see once and for all who's gonna win this argument. I have never met someone who wouldn't do what I asked. I am very persuasive and likable, so everyone always does what I want. I will make your life a living hell for as long as you treat me this way. In a few days, you'll come back to this house with a big car and an apology. I just know it.
I didn't know how hard living with Jake's family would be when I first agreed to move in. We've only been here for a few hours, and Mr. Wilson is already demanding that we buy him a brand new car. It's a luxury car, too. A Porsche. I said it was too expensive, and he had no need for that kind of vehicle, but he didn't listen to me. He kept demanding that Jake and I buy him the car. Every time we said no, he would scream at me and Mrs. Wilson. It felt like the more we pissed him off, the more he took out his frustration on her. Jake and I have been very worried about his mom since we've gotten here. It seems that her health has declined much worse than we thought. There are many things she's unable to do now, and she spends most of the day lying in bed or cleaning. We made his dad promise to stop lying to us, and he said he will make a better effort to be kind, although I doubt that will happen. Jake finally put his foot down and told his dad that we would not be getting him a new car, and for about an hour, Mr. Wilson seemed to accept the decision. In the past hour or so, he has started demanding we get him one yet again. It seems like he's being even ruder to his wife now that we are here, compared to before. If I'm being honest, I feel very uncomfortable here and I want to go home, but I need to stick around for the sake of Mrs. Wilson. Apparently, some of Mr. Wilson's close friends from town are planning on stopping by later tonight. They heard that Jake and I moved here from the city and they're very curious about us. The man's name is John, and he and his wife have known Mr. Wilson for years. Apparently, John and Mr. Wilson were best friends in their childhood and reunited after moving to the same farm town. Apparently, they hung out every day and do nearly everything together. John's wife, Marie, is close to Mrs. Wilson and relates to her struggles with her husband. Both of the men drink together late into the night and often get drunk. That's when they become the cruelest to their wives.
Here, John, take this shot. All right, how can I turn a drink down from my best buddy? Hey, Mary, get in here. We're taking a shot.
Oh, here, let me pour you another. Enjoy your drinks, boys.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mary. You know I love it when you get us our drinks. You picked your wife well, John. Can't help but be a bit jealous myself. I wish my wife took care of her looks as much as you do. Then maybe I would ask her to come pour us our drinks instead of you. I can't believe you married this old dog. Brother, what are you saying? Your wife is a total babe. You don't like her anymore? Don't patronize me. It is so hard being with a woman who looks like that. I've told her to exercise and lose some weight, but she always says her back hurts. She looks like an old woman. How can I possibly like the way she looks now? It's even worse now that Jake's wife is here. Have you seen her yet? She would be a total babe if she cleaned herself up a bit. I wish she would wear some makeup and then do her hair. Then she would be a real pleasure for me to look at every day. I don't want her to stay here. I tried to get my son to dump her, but the fool ended up marrying her. Well, it all isn't bad, is it? You said you convinced him to buy you that car, didn't you? I was thinking about it, and I really don't think you need that kind of sports car living out here in the country. I mean, look around. Have you seen many sports cars in our town? I don't think so. I understand where you're coming from, John, but it would be so cool. I told them I need the new car and I'll give them my old truck. If you think about it, it's an investment. An investment. In the future, we'll be able to sell it for more money and earn something back. My son is still young and doesn't understand the benefits of buying such a nice car. I think his wife has convinced him it's a waste of money. They've moved into my house. I'm not charging them any rent. I think they're obligated to do what I want. Hey, man, you're crazy. I don't think you're thinking this through. Do you know how clever these young people are nowadays? They know all about the investment in stocks. I think that asking them to buy you that car is crossing a line, you know? How will your daughter-in-law think of you if you demand this? No, don't ask too much of them, brother. Don't worry, they can take it. Moving forward, they'll learn how they need to act in my household. I guess I just need to change my method. You will see, I'll get what I want in the end.
You are so mischievous, Wayne. I understand why you're being so tough on them. A young woman needs to learn her place. I'm sure Jake could have found a better girl who would treat him right and fit all of your expectations. What a shame.
Thank you, Mary. This is exactly what I've been saying. John's first wife was a total witch. Oh, I'm so happy he left her and married you instead. Not only are you beautiful, but you're intelligent and sensible too. I had the best luck in finding a good wife. She's always so kind and so beautiful. Everywhere we go, men try to hit on her. I feel like the luckiest man in the world.
Oh, stop it. You're making me blush. They continued to meet with each other every day and encouraged each other's misogynistic behavior. They were very close and often spent the whole night chatting and drinking alcohol. After their first conversation that night, Mr. Wilson came to Jake and I again and demanded we start paying him rent and that we buy him the car. Mrs. Wilson begged him to stop asking us, but he just started to scream at her. At one point, he almost hit her, but Jake held him back. The whole situation was incredibly traumatic for all of us. When they got married, Mrs. Wilson was young, naive, and innocent. I've talked to her numerous times, encouraging her to get divorced. One night, Mr. Wilson heard us talking about it and stormed into the room. He slapped me across the face and started to hit Mrs. Wilson. Mrs. Wilson was so banged up that she needed to go to the emergency room. I drove her and Jake stayed at home with his dad to give him a piece of his mind. Mr. Wilson went around town talking to all of his buddies and lying about the whole situation. He told everyone his wife tried to kill him and he was defending himself. I couldn't believe the audacity he had to lie like that. He has lied to these people numerous times before to manipulate them, so I am not surprised they all believe him. Now all of the townspeople are gossiping about Mrs. Wilson and she's being shunned. They only heard one side of the story, and now the rumors about Mrs. Wilson are getting out of control. I'm scared for Mrs. Wilson's safety now that I know how abusive Mr. Wilson is. Mr. Wilson, you are just awful. You hurt her so badly that I had to bring her to the ER first thing in the morning. No matter how much I think about it, none of your actions were justifiable.
Yo, shut up. You're so annoying. There is no need to yell in a hospital. You have no manners. Why are you speaking so much anyways? I'm tired of hearing you yap like a dog. Who was the one who got her talking about divorce in the first place? Ever since you've come into our home, you've done nothing but encourage her to behave irrationally. Her body was already in a bad condition, but guess what? My body isn't good either. I have health issues too, but no one ever seems to ask me how I'm doing. She's gonna be just fine. I think she's just being dramatic, honestly. I told her she needed to start exercising and eating healthier to help her turn her health around, but she didn't listen to me. She always complained her head hurt, or her back hurt, or whatever else. She got lazy and she stopped taking care of herself. That's why her situation is so bad now. The only person she has to blame is herself. Dad, I can't believe you just said all of that. You don't think you're being too harsh on Mom? What did she do wrong? She did nothing. You always say that she's doing something wrong when she's done absolutely nothing. Ever since I was a kid, you've always treated her like garbage, like less than a human. Why can't you just let her be happy for once? Why do you have to dictate everything she does all the time? You have always lied and manipulated our family. She's never done anything wrong. Honestly, I think that she would have left you a long time ago. It hurts me to see her being treated like this by her own husband. You ungrateful brat. I married your mother when she was a good woman. You haven't realized how quickly she's deteriorated. I promise my feelings are all justified. You're just as dim-witted as your wife. The man in the house is supposed to keep all of the women in line. Your job is to make sure that they take care of you. In what world do you allow the women in the house to dictate how you live? What have you learned from me? What have you ever taught me? How to lie? How to cheat? How to manipulate people to get them to do what you want? When I was a kid, I always saw Mom crying silently alone in her room. You always drank alcohol and shouted and broke furniture when you were mad. You're the reason I have never drank a drop of alcohol. You never spoke to me like a real person. You were always disappointed in me and made sure that I knew it. Do you know why I never visited you after moving out? Because I'm ashamed of you. I am so ashamed. I am begging you to get a grip and open your stupid eyes. I see that ever since you got married, you've changed your attitudes towards me. I think you did learn stuff from me, but you met this little jerk and decided to change your opinion on it all. If you can't handle the way that I live, get out of my house. What, you don't like that? If you hate it so much, get out of my house. I have no need for ungrateful jerks like you living in my house and leeching off of me.
You know what? I don't think I can live with a monster like you. I can't understand how your wife managed to live with you for so long when you treat everyone like dirt. Who could ever love you? Who could ever respect you? I think she ought to divorce you and take all of your money along with her. I'm sure you'll find a better partner who will bow down and worship you like you desperately want. I don't get why you won't let her divorce you. Obviously, you're unhappy and want to avoid her. You say she's ugly, lazy, and not a good wife, so why not let her go? I think you should seriously reconsider letting her leave before you file a police report against you.
Oh, you're such a crybaby. If you look at all the men in society, they treat all women like this. Women want to be taken care of, and men want a good wife in return. Is it so much for me to ask for my wife not to get fat and to be good at cooking and cleaning? I didn't want to abandon her, and in the end, I didn't want to go through all of the effort of finding another partner. I've been married to her for so long, I didn't want to throw away all of our history. You won't find other men like me who are noble enough to stay with their wives even after they've fallen out of love with them. I am a good person. You should all be grateful that I'm allowing you to come into my home at all. I think you don't know what it means to be thankful. You are both so privileged that you don't know what you should or shouldn't be thankful for.
What are you talking about that all men in society act the same way as you? You don't work and spend every day at home. You're an alcoholic with anger issues and some serious problems. Why would you think that your actions and lifestyle is so common for so many people? I don't think there's any way you will be able to get a grip because you don't even realize that what you're doing is wrong. You've met plenty of women, and in my opinion, they have all dodged a bullet as you are a terrible person. The older you have gotten, the worse your attitude and temper have gotten. It is really disappointing to see the person you've become and the way you treat women. I don't think you love your wife at all. I think you just get off at the idea of controlling her. I haven't reported you to the police yet because your wife begged me not to, but I am going to. You know, if the police come around the house, they're going to ask me, Jake, and all of your neighbors about the way you have treated her. Are you prepared for our answers? That's why I think the best thing for you to do is let her divorce you. Otherwise, we will see to it that you are arrested and charged for the damage you've done to her.
What damaged? I have never damaged anybody in my whole life. You're lying about me and making stuff up. The police wouldn't believe you even if you tried. Janet said she's fine anyways. You don't need to worry about her so much. You're making something small out to be something bigger. You're supposed to be a good daughter-in-law, but I see that you're just trying to destroy our family.
I don't think you understand that you've already destroyed your family. You didn't need my help with that. Your wife has always been so kind to me and has welcomed me with big arms into the family. I will continue to think of her as my mother, but I will never consider you to be part of my family. You keep saying I should respect you as your daughter-in-law, but I see you as a monster, not a person. Don't you dare raise your voice to her ever again. If you do, I promise I will have the police raid your house. You know that you won't be able to win that case if it goes to court, so I would be careful if I were you.
What is this nonsense that you're spewing? You seem to think I've done so many bad things, but I haven't. I think you're all just twisting my words to use them against me. What kind of a husband would allow their wife to fight against them when they know they're in the right? Janet has never been a good wife. I constantly have to correct her. Getting a divorce would just be the easy way out. I made a promise when we got married that I would stay with her forever, even if I'm the one who is miserable. This is a sacrifice I'm willing to make for her. All you've done since you've gotten here is ruin the atmosphere of my house and destroy the remaining joys I have.
Mr. Wilson, Hank. Can I call you Hank?
No, you may not.
Hank, you need to get a grip. At your old age, drinking so much alcohol isn't good for you. You shouldn't be driving, or doing anything really. You're a danger to everyone around you. Do you know how much you've destroyed your health? You have continued to ask us to buy you a car, yet you can barely drive. I wouldn't trust you to drive, in any circumstance. I'm worried that you're going to hurt yourself, or even worse, that you're going to hurt someone else. I don't think you should own a car. I know you've driven while drunk a few times, and although you haven't gotten into an accident yet, you will eventually. You are endangering so many innocent lives. Why would I trust an irresponsible person like you with an expensive sports car? I think that your neighbors would like to know how recklessly you've been driving around their neighborhood. I'm sure everyone will be very worried about their safety. I don't want to be around you, but I don't want you to be left alone to commit such crimes on your own. Even though you think you're still young, you're old, and your body and mind show us that. You need to take this stuff seriously.
How dare you say that I've driven drunk? I have never done such a thing. What do you expect me to do? Sell my car? How would I drive Janet to the hospital if I don't have a car? Plus, next week I have a meeting at the town square, so I need my car. Everyone in town will be there. It's a big meeting. We have food and drinks and play games. Everyone goes. John and Mary are going too. There is no way I'm gonna miss this.
We understand there are things you want to do, and of course you can still go. You just won't be allowed to drive yourself. I can drop you off and pick you up when it's all over. Just think about it, please. I am going to take care of your wife from now on, so you don't need to worry.
What have you ever done for me that makes you feel like you can come in all high and mighty? You have done nothing for me. I am not a child. You will not be my driver. I wish I'd never convinced Jake to marry you. You have completely brainwashed him. Come on, Jake, back me up here. Hank, I do not consider you my father. You are nothing to me.
After the outburst at the hospital, we kicked Hank out of the area and called a taxi to take him home. We prepared to sell his car and prepare for him to get access to taxis or driving services in the town. Apparently, there is a shuttle bus funded by the local government that drives people to and from the town center. Hank was furious with Jake and I for standing up to him and threatening to call the police and report him. After the incident, Mrs. Wilson spent about 3 days in the hospital. After returning to the house, Jake and I started to pack up our items. John and Marie came by the house after Hank called them and spoke to them in private about everything. Jake and I have been staying at a motel in town instead of at the house because we're scared to be around him alone. I don't understand how someone can think that this kind of behavior is acceptable or normal. Every time we've gone by the house to get more of Mrs. Wilson's stuff, Hank bombards us in a drunken stupor. He always says something like, "It's not my fault I don't love her anymore." Next week is the big town meeting he was looking forward to. I told Hank he better watch himself or else we won't take him, and he said he'll behave until then. I think he's going to be sad to learn that everyone in town is angry with him. Apparently John and Marie gossiped and told everyone about the fight. Seems like Hank has started to give up on life. He doesn't leave the house, and he only drinks. Last night was the first time in 5 years that John and Marie didn't stop by to drink with him. I think that's really gotten to him. I don't think he's going to be able to continue like this. He needs to start preparing for the meeting by coming up with food to cook and take with him. He's not sure what to do because he has always made Mrs. Wilson do it. I'm a bit worried that he will ruin the party for everyone else. It's not the kind of party you should get drunk at, and he's bound to get to that point. Jake and I went to the town center to introduce ourselves to some of the townspeople and update them on Mrs. Wilson's condition. They seem nice. I just hope that his friends can talk some sense into him.
Thank you for all coming and helping me by making this food. The food is delicious and I'm sure you're all gonna have a great time. Of course, we're happy to help, but are you not coming with us to the meeting? I heard about Janet. Is she doing okay? What really happened? I heard that you hit her after she said she wanted a divorce. Oh, that's not the truth, is it? Of course it's not true. She fell after we got into an argument and blamed me for it. Where in the world would a man with this kind of lying wife continue to go out in public? I know I did nothing wrong. I'm innocent. That's why I'm going tonight. The food is delicious, boys. Thank you. If I'd known she'd lied about everything, I would have never gossiped. Now, I'm so sorry, Hank. I shouldn't have done that to you. We all made mistakes. I learned from mine. Don't worry about it, I get it. My daughter-in-law is one convincing brat. Let's just continue to be good friends moving forward. Keep coming over and spending nights with me. What did I hear your wife saying on the phone to you last time you came over? That she wants a divorce? Is that right? Yeah, she suddenly told me she wanted a divorce. I don't have any idea why. It's been so hard for her to live in the countryside when she's so used to the city. I asked her if that was the reason she wanted to leave me, but she said it wasn't. I have no idea what it could be. She's been very stressed recently, but that might be part of the reason. But I'm sure I'll be able to talk her out of it. You've talked your wife out of it so many times that I just knew what to say. Oh, thanks, man. Oh, that's a relief. You can always believe in me. I promise I know all the ways to keep the ladies with you. I guess you can't trust women these days. They're always letting us down. They aren't as honest as us men, and they have no sense of reality. They're so emotional and hysterical, and they never see the whole picture. Yeah, you're right. Women suck nowadays. No, you know that tonight you're supposed to receive one of the awards for best husbands in town, right? I think they just announced the winners. Oh, I knew I would win. Oh, it looks like you've got a congratulations video from your son. He and his wife must have done a lot to prepare that for you. Oh, I'm jealous. What a good son you have. My son and I are very close. He knows how to make me feel good. Oh, I knew he would come around. Let's all watch this together. Huh? What is that? What is this, Hank? Isn't that you and Mary together? Kissing? No way. No way, you cheated on your wife with John's wife? That's why she's divorcing him. What is this? Turn it off. Hey, I can't turn it off. This isn't really me. Miranda made it all up. Don't look, John, it's not real. It isn't what it looks like. I didn't do anything wrong. That's not me, I'm telling you the truth. Wow, I see now the rumors about you were all true. Best husband? As if. It's your fault that my wife is divorcing me. You jerk, get over here. I'm gonna make you pay for what you did. You are dead meat. You've been my best friend for our whole lives, and you did this to me? You're a monster. Hold on, John. I promise you it wasn't me. Just hang on for a second. Let me explain. Hold on. John!
Good morning, Janet. Where did Miguel go? He went down to the market to get me some fresh fish. Oh, wow. I should have known that's where he was. How would you have known? Because you love fish and he loves to cook it for you. Of course he would be out at the market. I'm glad that he treats you so well and tends to your needs. Other women would be jealous to find such a great man. Oh my, don't embarrass me like that. I lucked out meeting him. Do you really like him? I mean, does he treat you well? I have never been treated better. There is nothing more I could ask for. It's like a dream come true. I was worried about you starting to date again after all of the stuff that happened with Hank, but I see now that there are better people out there. He is very different from Hank. Miguel treats me like a queen and is always trying to make me happy. I was scared to leave Hank because he made me believe that no one would want me, that no one would treat me any better. But I was so wrong. Thanks to your support, I was able to find true love. I'm so happy for you. You've worked so hard for your kids for so long. It's finally time for you to get your own happy ending. I hope you can live the rest of your life happily. Thank you, dear. It's all thanks to you. As soon as Hank got the video of him cheating on his wife with his friend's wife, I knew that his life would be ruined. Marie came to me and told me everything after Hank threatened her if she told anyone. I asked her to get me some evidence, and she did. After I showed Jake, he was furious and said he wanted to destroy his dad's life. After the fight, John and Danny went to the town meeting and showed everyone the video. Everyone was shocked by Hank's behavior, and they learned that the abuse accusations were all true. Hank was stripped of his award and was banned from ever coming to the meetings again. He has been outcast by everyone in the town. He now has no car, no wife, no son, and no friends. He tried to rebuild his life, but it was hard for him to do so with no support. One day it rained so hard that all of the fields flooded. Hank sat in the field, all alone in the cold, crying and wishing he had made different decisions. Everyone said that he wasn't a person, that no person could be as cruel as him. They called him a monster and told everyone to stay away from him. Some old friends tried to visit him and talk some sense into him, but he went crazy and tried to fight them all. They said he was the crazy one and all left. Now no one visits him and he's all alone at the farm. Hank and Mrs. Wilson finally got divorced, and she got a large portion of his money and assets, leaving him with next to nothing. He was allowed to keep one car and the house, but that's all he has left. Now, neither of his children visit him, and he's all alone. He still blames me for ruining his life. Since the divorce, Mrs. Wilson has come to live with Jake and I in the city. She likes it a lot so far. We have a garden out back that she likes to tend to, and she gets to spend her free time knitting and watching funny movies. Jake and I share our cleaning and cooking duties at home and enjoy the balance and quality of her home. We try to pamper Mrs. Wilson since she has been suffering for so long. Jake and his mom's relationship is better than ever, and I consider her to be my own mother. Since moving in with us, her health has improved drastically. Her stress has been reduced, and she doesn't have to do nearly as much physical work. I've been cooking her healthy foods and doing low-impact exercises and stretching with her a couple of times a week to help get her healthier. She said she's never felt stronger and is happy to be living with us. She said she feels so close to me now that she wants me to call her by her first name, Janet. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe.